Hey y'all, welcome back to Make It Dairy Free. I am Larisha.
I am Andrew, and today's video is all about how to replace eggs in your baked goods.
Vegan, of course.
What she said.
Yeah, so we wanted to make this video in the fall as we are basically entering prime baking season.
Yep.
We hope that this video is good year round.
Yeah, so everyone's gonna start making these cookies, quick breads, these cakes, and honestly for us in the beginning, it was kind of tough just trying to understand, what are we gonna use to substitute the egg? Because that is a huge part of baking.
Exactly, eggs are used for like a variety of things in baking, whether it's like binding or for moisture or for leavening or a combination of the things. And I think that like once people get the hang of it, like how to replace eggs and substitute eggs, that they become a lot more confident in the kitchen while they're vegan.
Yeah, true. I think the education of understanding what it's used for, the purpose, really helps them understand how to replace the egg and what's probably best to serve that need. So I think we should probably discuss maybe just a little bit about the different purposes that an egg serves in a baking good.
Yeah, let's do it. I think like the number one way that we all know that eggs can be used is basically as the binder, right? Like it is used to hold the structure of the ingredients together, and it helps like thicken up as it's baking and stuff like that. So like a cake is a good example of like how eggs are used as a binder.
Yeah, for sure. An additional way that eggs are used in baking is to add moisture to the dish. So when you think about something like a quick bread, you want that richness, soft. You don't really want something like a sandwich bread kind of texture, so that's an additional way that you can understand eggs are doing the work for you inside the bread.
Yeah.
Inside baking.
Quick bread is actually like a really good example of a baked good that uses like all eggs for like all three reasons, right? So it uses eggs as a binder, it uses eggs for moisture, and then it uses it as a leavening agent.
Yes, which I guess is pretty much the third point here, which is, as it uses it for a leavening agent, really just means that it does help with the rise of the dish, bringing that airiness to it, bringing the fluffiness to it, getting that incorporated in the whole thing, sort of like a cookie or a pancake or something in that nature that just, requires just a little bit more fluff to it in order to taste well.
Yeah, like it makes it the softness that you expect and like things like that.
Yeah.
With the rise.
So all three of those items pretty much work in what you would say
unison.
Unison. That's a good word.
Like us.
Yep. Yeah.
We're going to be discussing with you about 15 or so different options that you have to replace eggs in vegan baking.
I know it sounds like a lot, so two things I want to discuss with you really quick or go over. One, we're going to timestamp the video, so this way, once you watch it through, if you're in the kitchen and you want to come back, you can find how to use or what to use to put together in your baked good. Also, all of the substitutes are not created equal. So you do want to choose the appropriate substitute for what kind of baking you're doing. Which
we're gonna get into like in this video. And don't worry, like these aren't like, we don't wanna make this complicated at all. These are all things that should really be in your pantry, like as a staple that you already have. A couple of them, you might need to run to the store for if you wanted to like use that, but it's all easily accessible. It's nothing like crazy that it's hard to find or anything like that. So we wanna make this as easy as possible and give you as many options as you can as you get into the holiday baking season or beyond, if you're like us and bake cookies every weekend, even when we weren't vegan.
Yeah, pretty much.
So let's just jump right into the video and show you all of the different options that you have for replacing eggs.
So we're gonna start off with one of the most common egg replacers known in the vegan world, and that is the flax egg. This is ground flaxseed, but it's also known in grocery stores or on some of the bag labels, you'll see it as flax meal. To make the flax egg, you're gonna start off with 1 tablespoon of grounded flaxseed and 2 to 3 tablespoons of water. And what you're gonna do is put that in a small bowl, whisk it together, and let it sit for about 15 or even 10 minutes at times. After about the 10 to 15 minute area, you can kind of test and make sure your flax egg formed up by shaking it a bit, and you'll see that it's supposed to be kind of a jiggly, or I guess what you could say a gelatinous kind of thick texture. The reason that you're gonna use 2 tablespoons at times and 3 tablespoons at water at times is because some recipes will actually call for 1 large egg. So when you see 1 large egg, typically I'll go with 3 tablespoons of water so I can kind of match what I would have got out of that large egg. If a recipe doesn't specify if it's a large egg or not, then a safe bet would be to go with just 2 tablespoons of water. You can always analyze your mixture afterwards and add water later into that. Just a heads up, it does have a bit of a nutty flavor, so you will have that in the recipe. It usually goes good if you make this with like cookies or brownies or even pancakes at times.
Similar to the flax egg, we have the chia egg, which is the same thing except we're using chia seeds, and you use the exact same ratio. So it's 1 tablespoon of chia seeds to 2 to 3 tablespoons of water, and then you're just letting it sit for the same amount of time until it gets like that gelatinous texture. It's basically the same concept as the flax egg, and it can be used in the same type of way. It doesn't have the nutty flavor that the flax egg has, but it does have a different texture, and it's similar to like poppy seeds or like raspberry seeds. So you have to be careful, but if you use it in the right type of way, it can really add a nice texture to whatever you are making. Sometimes people will give it like a quick pulse inside of like a NutriBullet or like a handheld personal blender, since it's not a lot, and then they'll use that instead since it helps with the texture a little bit.
Next is one of our personal favorites, which is the banana. That sounds a little weird rolling off my tongue, so let me explain. In order to use the banana in your baked goods, what you want to do is smash it down, and then you want to use about 1/4 of a cup. This is one of our favorite replacers because it does come through with a hint of flavor, which you want to be mindful of because everything is going to taste literally like bananas. 2 quick tips. First is when you use a banana, go for the overripe banana. You want to do that because that's going to add a bit of sweetness to your recipe and it helps deepen the flavor. Second tip is if you do not have an overripe banana, what you can do is just take a banana, stick it inside the oven on 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes, and when you pop it out, it'll be completely ripe. The way we use it is in quick breads, pancakes, and even cinnamon rolls, which we have a recipe that is delicious. So remember, as long as you can cope with that great banana taste, then this is gonna be perfect for some of your recipes. I wonder how many times I said banana.
Too many.
I actually kept a straight face that whole time.
I think if we go back and watch it, or they're watching it with us, my face is not going to be as straight. I'm like trying to hold my like cheeks together as much as I can while you're talking. Which leads us to our next substitution, which is pureed apples, which we all know as applesauce. It acts very similar to the bananas, but it has a much more neutral flavor. We're also doing the same amount, which is 1/4 a cup of applesauce per, I was about to say per banana, but it is per egg. You want to make sure that you are using unsweetened applesauce because the sweetened ones usually are just basically sugar, and we don't want to add a lot more sweetness into whatever we are making. You also want to be mindful of making sure you don't pick up any flavored applesauces. A lot of times they're like cinnamon and stuff like that, so we don't want those. We just want plain, straight up, unsweetened applesauce. We probably use this one along with the flax egg the most, like we swap those out depending on what we're making. Because it has such a neutral flavor to it, we use it in things like cookies or pancakes or even quick breads, depending on, you know, what the flavor is that we want.
I think we also use it because it's pretty cheap. When you think about the fact that you can get a pretty big jar or even any size jar and you're only using a tablespoon of it at a time, it's kind of a really good benefit.
Yeah, we do also get asked a lot for what can they replace applesauce with. Apparently, if you don't have kids, oftentimes you don't keep applesauce on hand.
True.
But it is such a good replacer because of the neutral taste that we recommend you always having it. So an alternative would be to get like those individual size cups, which is a little bit more than 1/4 of a cup usually, but it's pretty close that it's a good alternative if you know, you can't go through a big jar all on your own.
So our next egg replacer, or should I say egg white replacer, is Aquafaba. This one takes the longest out of all of them to come together. Aquafaba is literally just the juice from canned chickpeas.
You can get it if you use dried chickpeas and you boil them down if you were using that type of thing, but it's much harder. You have to let the juice reduce for a really long time, and so it's really just easier just to use the juice from the can.
To use Aquafaba in your recipe, you're gonna use 3 tablespoons of the juice from the canned chickpeas. That's gonna replace 1 egg white, and what you're gonna do is beat that for about 8 to 10 minutes, and that should come together and be fairly stiff. It is pretty neutral in flavor, but depending on your taste buds and how sensitive they are, the bean taste can slightly come out. We typically use this egg substitute whenever we're making meringues, cakes, and pancakes. It's a really good egg replacer in order to fluff things up.
Next up, we have Silken tofu, which we basically puree like we talked about doing with the bananas. And you are just doing the same amount, so it's 1/4 cup per egg being replaced. The only thing you wanna make sure here is that you are using Silken tofu. Don't go and buy extra firm tofu. You need the tofu that is super silky and smooth and soft, and that's what you get when you use Silken tofu. This one is great because it has such a neutral taste to it. It's great in things like cheesecakes and custards and French toast batter and sometimes even like brownies.
Yeah.
The one downside to it is that it is a little bit more expensive than some of the other ones that we've already recommended and some that we're gonna talk about here in just a few seconds.
You also want to make sure you do not pick up, because I've made this mistake before, you don't want to pick up a flavored version, because if you like teriyaki brownies, then maybe you do want to pick it up. So another great option to substitute the egg in your baked goods would be like nut butters. This is things like peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, or even sun butters if you're allergic to peanuts or nuts in general. In order to replace this, you want to use about 3 tablespoons of the nut butter or sun butter in order to replace the 1 egg. Just be mindful that it will take on whatever the taste of the nut butter is or sun butter. So I like to use this in something that I'm looking to make sure that taste just adds to the dish. A good example of what we use it in are things like peanut butter cookies or even quick breads, which I think we just put one up.
Yep, we put up peanut butter banana bread, which is amazing.
Yes.
So another thing that we can use in things like cookies or muffins or quick breads is chickpea flour, actually.
Yeah.
And so it's just gonna be a 1-to-1 ratio, and you're gonna do 3 tablespoons of chickpea flour to 3 tablespoons of water. So you just mix them all together, and then it's ready to go as soon as you do that. And then it's not as neutral as some of the other ones that we've talked about, like the applesauce, but it's not overpowering either.
Next up is a combination of baking soda, water, and vinegar. You could also replace the vinegar with something like lemon juice, or it could be either apple cider vinegar or white vinegar are the ones that we choose. Believe it or not, this actually comes out with a really neutral flavor. We typically use it in things like cake because it makes it extremely moist. In order to bring this one together, you're gonna use 1 teaspoon of baking soda and then 1 tablespoon of both vinegar and water.
So another similar one that you could do to the baking soda mixture is you could mix baking powder with oil and water. To do this one, you're gonna do 1 teaspoon of oil to 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and then you're gonna add 2 tablespoons of water, and you're just gonna whisk that together. Obviously with this one, if you are oil-free, you're not gonna wanna pick this one, but you're gonna pick one of the other options that we've recommended already.
Another pantry staple we use when we're really in a pinch is gonna be a mixture of water and cornstarch. And if you're not into using corn, then arrowroot powder would be the substitute. To bring this one together, you're gonna use 2 tablespoons of the dry ingredient and then 3 tablespoons of water, and just give it a good whisk. This one we typically use for something like a bread or a French toast. Again, this is one if we're really in a pinch, so typically we'll recommend something else as a first option, and this literally as your last.
Also, if you are in a pinch and you just happen to have agar in your pantry, then you can also use that. You can use 1 tablespoon of the powder, and you're going to whisk it together with 4 tablespoons of boiling hot water, and that basically activates the agar. Just be careful, it does have like a really neutral flavor, which is great, but it is very gelatiny, so it is really just another last resort type of thing if we are in a pinch and we don't have anything else. Gelatiny.
One of our favorite ways to make box cake mix before going vegan was to swap out the eggs for carbonated water or carbonated juice. Typically the go-to is just for a plain Jane type of carbonated water, but the other option sometimes we used was a carbonated juice to add a little hint of flavor. In order to use this one, you're gonna use just 1/4 cup of the water. It's also great in things like muffins as well. The idea here is to use it in things that you want it to be a little bit more airy and fluffy.
Another one that you can do is a dairy-free yogurt. Again, you are just going to do 1/4 cup of the yogurt to replace 1 egg. The dairy-free yogurt is great in things like muffins or cake or quick breads, things like that. And if you guys have been watching us for a little while, you know that we do not have a very good track record with liking dairy-free yogurts.
Yeah.
So the key here is to pick one that you really know that you like. And also that for the most part, you should pick a plain dairy-free yogurt. But if you want a little bit of hint, whether you're making like a peach cake, maybe you go with like a peach dairy-free yogurt or something like that. But just be mindful of whatever you're making.
Also consider the fact that yogurt is fairly expensive, which is why it's kind of at the bottom of our list. Because in order to use a yogurt as an egg, you're probably spending like $2 or $3 on just a single egg.
Just one last quick tip that we wanted to mention is that 1/4 cup seems to be the pretty standard measurement for replacing a puree like the bananas or the applesauce, but that you could also do things like mashed avocado, or because of the time of year, you can do pureed pumpkin, but you can also do like other fruit flavors like strawberries or raspberries. Just be mindful of whatever you are putting the puree in, that it's not gonna overpower the dish.
All right, so we really hope that this video was helpful for you guys and you were able to learn some things.
Yeah, these are things that like we use in our kitchen every day for baking. So we really hope that this video just makes you a little bit more confident in the kitchen, especially as we get into like the hustle and bustle of the holiday season, but also that it helps you go beyond this time of year, and it helps you just in the kitchen in general, especially if you like to bake as much as we like to bake.
We really wanted to show in this video how to use pretty much just pantry staples that would be inside your household in order to replace eggs in your baked goods, but also considering the fact that, you know, we are an allergy-friendly channel, so we want to make sure that you have a arsenal of items to go through whenever you're thinking about how do I replace egg in my next baked good.
Yeah, especially because around this time of year, and really any time of year, if you are having people over that, you know, you might be vegan, so you might be wanting to replace like the egg and the dairy, obviously, but you don't want to use something like tofu because, you know, somebody that you have over might be allergic to soy.
Yeah.
Also, we just wanted to give you a few quick tips in case you like skipped around the video. One of them is if you are using the tofu, do not get like seasoned tofu. Make sure you grab the plain tofu.
That's bad news bears. Yeah, you get seasoned tofu and put that in like some cookies.
No. Have like teriyaki flavored pumpkin cookies.
Yeah, what? Ugh. That's just...
We might be onto something.
No, you might be onto something. Another additional tip is consider how many eggs you're replacing. If you're looking to replace 1 to, I would say probably up to about 3 eggs, you're in good shape with these egg substitutes. But if you're looking at something that requires, say, like 6 eggs, something that comes to mind is like an angel food cake. That's not a good idea to tackle with these substitutes at all. Another additional tip is consider how many eggs you're replacing. If you're looking to replace 1 to, I would say probably up to about 3 eggs, you're in good shape with these egg substitutes. But if you're looking at something that requires, say, like 6 eggs, something that comes to mind is like an angel food cake. That's not a good idea to tackle with these substitutes at all.
Yeah, you should probably just like make another cake.
100% make another cake.
Which we have plenty of cakes on our website, so just check those out. And eventually we will perfect the angel food cake. I'm confident.
Or someone in the vegan community.
I'm confident.
Well, I appreciate that.
Another tip that we wanted to share is just to be really careful when you're like adding like a
fruit puree.
We have tried to say that, well, I have tried to say that like 6 times.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna depend on him at this point because I cannot say fruit puree together right now. And so basically, like if you're using one of those, that it just can add a lot of flavor, but it can also make something really dense. So you just have to be really careful. Like if you're using bananas, the banana flavor is always going to come out in whatever you're making.
Over.
So that's why we always like recommend using unsweetened applesauce.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. All right, family, if you like this type of video where we show tips and tricks on how to get you better in the vegan kitchen, then leave us a comment down below where we can interact and talk about what we could do next.
Right, that really helps us know like if we should create more of these type of videos, if you guys are really liking them. And also if you have like specific ideas for tips and trick videos that you would like to see, we would love to hear about those in the comments down below. Also, if you could give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any of our new videos. And we really just hope that you enjoyed this type of video, and we are just so appreciative of each and every one of you for watching every week. So thank you guys so much,
100%.
and we will see you soon. Have a great week. Next up, we have silken tofu. We're basically going to puree this like we talked about doing with the
Paninis? With the who?
I don't know. I was gonna say bananas, but I don't know what it's
Banana. Banana. You sound like one of the minions. Banana.
Okay, all right. Next up, we have silken tofu. So basically, you
Pierogi.
pierogi. Next up, we have silken tofu.
What? Taylor fit?